Kuzaki. A man with a fiancée has the spirited away by an 8-headed beast, uses the sword to smite his foes. Looks like the head of a lance. The shield left hanging on the wall was covered in dust. The blade left in its scabbard had rusted over. The techniques it hadn't used were forgotten. The body it was trained was left to grow soft. It had lost the will to practice discipline. I thought things would end up with a single word said. I persisted not to see violence inflicted by others. I had given up assuming things would never change. I believed there was no way to oppose such a great power. I sneered at the heart that tried to believe anywhere. I laughed, thinking, them brainless fools. Those were the thoughts that I had taken in refuge. I had given up believing nothing was possible in the end. I lament the foolishness and ugliness of it all. My life had lost all meaning. I had lost sight of those who were precious to me. I could not believe in their kindness. I was unable to save them from the grief that I tore their hearts. I had forgotten the courage it took to protect the smallest of joys. I believe my words would never reach you. Acts of Beholding. A man's demonantra drove him to attack his daughter and fiancé with this axe. Sadly, he hit his daughter instead. There was once a ritual gathering of spirits held on the night of the 10th full moon of the year. During the ceremony, they would gather on the shore of the lake and boast to one another of all the evil deeds they had performed this year. The first spirit took great joy in telling of the unfathomable cruel way she had killed some of the finest soldiers in the land. Over the years she had transformed her shape into a lady of the night and called out to various men, then tore off every last piece of their body. When they came to her bed, the soldiers, ashamed their skills could not save them, shed bitter tears as they died, and their spirits claimed they were the most delicious she had ever tasted. The next spirit recollected the others the story of cunning and guile. One night she threw a small boy into a bog. When his older sister came to rescue him, she too sank into the murk. These two were followed by their parents and the other siblings, then extended relatives, until finally every member of the village was sleeping at the bottom of the bog. When the spirit finished her story, she was so beside herself with glee that she didn't even notice the saliva dripping down her chin. Nervously, the smallest spirit in the group stepped forward and addressed the crowd. "I am the most amazing of us all," cried the often ridiculed spirit at the top of her lungs, "for I was who all living creatures in terror deepers." The other spirits, unable to contain their mirth, collapsed to the ground and rolled about, and their laughter did not cease until the horrified monster the small spirit had summoned from the demon world devoured each and every one of them. Bangs of twins. A giant accursed axe that is bathed in the blood of young twins before presenting to the gods itself. We've been together since we were born. We're together when we eat, when we sleep, when we dream. We share everything. We share the milk we get from Mummy and the nice things Daddy says to us. But we're not together when we die. Daddy took me and cut my head, and Mummy took my sister and cut her head. But it's okay, our blood got mashed up in the big axe, so now we can be together forever. What a weird axe. Vile axe. A mage with putrid soul imbued the essence of a fire lizard into this axe. The girl stared at the sight before her. Her father lay nearby, carved into pieces by countless blades. Her mother also lies dying, as well as her newborn baby brother. All had suffered terribly in their final moments, and the girl could do nothing but cry as she stared at the 3 soldiers who had murdered her only family. Years later the girl reappeared, her visage more strong, but her vow for revenge. The first soldier had grown so fat that the buttons of his uniform could barely contain his girth. The girl approached him and claims to know an easy way to lose weight. On the pretext of an examination, she has him lie down on the bed before suddenly hacking off his arms and legs with an axe. The remaining lump of the soldier screams and attempts to wriggle away, but the girl pins him down and tells him he is still has parts he can lose. Sometime later the girl sits in front of her now round torso, smiling. "There we are," she whispers. "Look how nice and slim you are." The second soldier is a peerless Larfo. Each night a new woman is invited to his manor and to spend the night. The girl breaks into his home and kills the woman at his side, then uses her axe to hack off his manhood as he trembles and begs for mercy. The third soldier has long since left service and now is living a quiet life with his family in a remote village. After they have fallen asleep, the girl takes her axe and cleaves the supporting beam of the house, causing it to collapse. She then sets fire to the wreckage, creating a great bonfire that can be seen for miles in all directions. Suddenly, the soldier's son crawls from the wreck, covered from head to toe with terrible burns. As his eyes fall on the girl who has murdered his family, she hands him her axe and flees into the dark of night, never to be seen again. Beast Lord. A beastly sword known for its keen edge stands ready to mow down all who question divine right of its wielder. Long, long ago, in a faraway kingdom, there were 3 brothers. The eldest brother was a king who ruled over the nation entire. He was the most terrifying king, feared by all. Each day the king would select one of his subjects to execute as a sacrifice. This day he chopped off a mother's head and forced her family to watch. The head spun 3 times as it flew through the air before landing next to the head of her son, who the king had previously killed. Oh, the horror of it all. But the king merely watched the sight unfold before him and laughed in the most unsettling voice. One day the king contracted an illness most dire, one which caused his body to rot while he still was alive. But through the disease the king would still drag his decaying flesh to all the executions, all the same. His retainers dared not defy their king, so he continued to kill day after day after day. In the end the king rotted and died. He was a disgusting fool, rotten deaf, but he retained a container carrying out execution. Before the king, rotting corpse every day, killing. Every day the rotten king and his rotten retainers and rotted citizens and the rotted you. Iron Will. An enormous sword that grows heavy with each kill as blood and flesh cling to the blade. Longsword main. No, not longsword, greatsword mains. I raise the cry of my birth. The sound of hated iron taking shape, a steel mallet striking my form. Born to deliver chaotic justice, I enter the world under the careful watch of a sparking flame that gave me light to the gloom. I am a blade born of a defending roar. I am a weapon. I am Iron Will. I grant death. I transform the dread and screams of my foes to elation. I festone my iron skin with their visage. I rob them of life, and I am filled with dark joy. When I crush them beneath me, I find meaning in my birth, and I continue to kill, that I may share the delight with all. I kill and I kill and I kill and I kill. I am a weapon. I am iron will. I am shattered. At the battle and blood's end, my body is torn asunder by malice and hate. Today again I engage the red dragon in battle, and magical forces meet, leaping iron fangs to create a blade storm. My steel cursed, I sink and slumber in blackness. I am a weapon, I am iron will. I dream. It is a dream of small butterflies. In it, the butterfly is caught in a light rain, struggling against it all as it might. In the darkness of night, I behold a dream that will never come true. I am a weapon, I am iron will. Phoenix Sword. A large sword used by temple guardsmen, and supposedly made from the feathers of a legendary firebird. This is the story of a long ago. There was once a beautiful bird with resplendent feathers that lived a quiet life deep in the forest. One day a lost child wandered into the wood. He came from a place of famine, and he had been abandoned in the forest as a way to reduce the numbers of mouths to feed. Taking pity on the feeble, starved child, the bird plucked one of its own feathers and gave it to him. When he returned home, his family was overjoyed by the feather and permitted him to live with them once more. Hearing the child's story, one person after another descended upon the forest to tell the beautiful bird how poor and unfortunate they were. Each time the bird would pluck a feather and give it away. Plucked feathers were given away until it had no more to give. Its once beautiful visage was now shabby beyond recognition, but the shabby bird had no regrets. One day, the original child appeared before the shabby bird, which was featherless and freezing in the cold. He had come seeking a bird with resplendent feathers that might repay the creature's earlier kindness. Overjoyed, the shabby bird said, "It is I you seek. If I might beg a favour, would you hold me to your chest and warm my freezing body?" Sparing a single glance at the shabby bird, the child called it a liar and cut it down with a large blade. He then roasted the bird and ate every last part, and set out anew to find the beautiful bird who had once saved his life. Labyrinth Song. A sword forged from a metal and liquidized beast horn. Its dull glow lures people deep into the labyrinth. It was a beast that lived in the cavern's deepest, most untouched depths. It had massive horns, a body like steel, breath of scorching fire. The peace-loving villagers hated this monstrous beast with the head of a bull and the body of a human. They feared it, and soon the beast came to be known as a Minotaur of the Labyrinth. Contrary to its terrifying appearance, the Minotaur was exceptionally kind. Not only did it refrain from harming others, it took great care not to trample flowers beneath its oafish feet as it walked. Indeed, this is the reason it had lived inside a cavern, was to help avoid frightening the villagers. One day, a lost girl wandered into the beast's cavern. Frightened by the sight of it, she cried so hard she eventually passed out, which left the beast in quite a quandary. I have no choice, the beast firmly decided. I must take the poor thing back to the village, for her mother and father will be terribly worried. 2 days after the girl vanished, her panicked parents found her sleeping soundly in front of their home on the ground. A short distance away, the dead body of the Minotaur. It had been impaled by several swords, and blood scattered around it held an otherworldly quality. Yet there was no indication of the beast had attacked the girl. In fact, it looked as though it had been trying to place as much distance between itself and her as possible, so not to dirty her with its blood, almost as if it didn't want her to be afraid. And then, having curled up to it, making small as possible, the monster died. Fool's Lament. A weapon with a horrific dragon's motif, used by a human who tried to save the world. Memoir, June 6th, 2013, approximately 3 o'clock. A massive white humanoid, intellectually called the Weapon but since renamed the Giant, falls from the sky above Tokyo Sakinki Ward, inflicting tremendous damage. At the same time, a large red creature, henceforth referred to as the Dragon, appears and engages the Giant in combat. Though both the natures of the attacks and their unity remains unclear, as the self-defense force contemplates methods on which they might attack the target, the government establishes a brevet of emergency countermeasures. Memoir, June 12, 2013, approximately 4 o'clock. The Giant, which was locked in combat with the Dragon, suddenly began to collapse for reasons unknown. The Dragon is shot down by the 6th Division, 331st Squadron of Air Self-Defense Force. No official records exist of who issued the order to attack the Dragon. Work is beginning to retrieve both the Giant and the Dragon, but no official verification has been made regarding which organization performed the retrieval. Memoir, December 2013. The first case of the white collision syndrome is confirmed in Tokyo Serial Ward. Memoir, July 2004. Humans continue to turn violent due to the white collision syndrome, with fighting growing intensively in infected regions. With the cause of the disease still unclear, the infections are isolated and violent riots suppressed by the force. Main, therefore, fare are sealed and rail tour is halted, later leading to all of the Sinchu being sealed off. At this time, the prospect of asking the American military for non-official intervention is considered, but the government defers. Meanwhile, research begins on mesoparticle obtained from the Giant and Dragon, as well as countermeasures for the white collision syndrome. This research ultimately leads to the founding of the Gestel project a decade later.